This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and what I have for you today is a Master Lock Model 875 combination padlock. This is a relatively new lock, only about 4 years old, I believe, and the mechanism in it is completely different from the superficially similar Master Lock Model 175, which has been a mainstay of the product line from Master Lock for several decades. Now, this new mechanism appears to be poised to replace the old and can already be found in the M175, the 875, which is this lock, and the 975, which is the brass version of the 875. Now, the 175 has a number of well-documented design flaws that Master Lock seems to have tried to fix in the 875. In order of severity, this lock can be bypassed relatively quickly with a tool like this. In fact, it can usually be done faster than actually dialing the combination in. As you can see, that was pretty darn quick. Next, the lock can be decoded with this same tool simply by reaching in between the dial and the lock body and feeling for the code wheel on the side and the flat surface on it. The final flaw is that a tool is required to change the combination. And I see this as a problem because everyone seems to lose this tool very, very quickly. So, what did they fix on the 875? Most importantly, this lock is no longer bypassable. I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube suggesting that it's not bypassable because you can't fit a tool all the way back into the mechanism. And that's actually inaccurate. This lock couldn't be bypassed even if there was a huge hole in the side that let you access every bit of the mechanism. Let me show you why that is. Now, this lock is held together by 2 pins, one on each side. So I took another one of these locks and I drilled those pins out. When I do that, it slides apart. We then have a zinc clamshell on the inside that's held together by 2 rivets. So I ground the heads off of those rivets. And after we do that, we should be able to simply open this up. Okay, let me zoom in on this just a little bit so you have a slightly better look at it. Now, if you look at this mechanism, you can see that the only way for this shackle to be lifted out of the lock body is for these rollers to move inward, and the only way for these rollers to move inward is for this fork to move downwards. The only way that can happen is if all of the true gates on these code wheels are lined up. There's no way we can manipulate this mechanism such that it will allow the lock to be opened without these wheels being in the proper position. So, bypassing is completely out. Next, let's talk about changing the combination because they have improved that as well. It used to be, as I mentioned, that you needed a tool like this to change the combination on the 175. This is not required anymore on the 875. If we look at the bottom of this shackle, you can see there is a cam mechanism on the bottom of the long end, and that is what actuates the change function. So to change the combination of this lock, all we need to do is dial the correct combination in. Right now, this is 0, 0, 0. Open the shackle, rotate the shackle 90 degrees to the number 1 position. We then push the shackle down, rotate it another 90 degrees to the 2 position, and then we can change the combination to anything we want. I'm going to change it from all zeros to all ones. Then we just reverse that motion and we have the combination reset. It's very easy, and most importantly, it doesn't require any special tools. It's a clear improvement over the 175. Okay, now we get to the bad, decoding. On the old 175, you could decode it, as I mentioned, by using a tool like this and feeling in between the lock body and the wheels so you could define the combination. You can do something very similar on the 875, though Master Lock did put a tiny little lip on the side of the code wheel that I believe is designed to catch your tool. It works a little bit better on these sides right here. It does make it a little bit harder, but to be perfectly honest, it's not terribly effective. If you put a tiny little bend on the tip of your decoding tool, you should be able to reach in there without too much trouble. But I don't think that makes any practical difference because there is a far easier way to decode this lock, and it doesn't require the use of any tools at all. If we take a close look at this mechanism, you can see that the beveled top of the fork makes it such that if you pull on the shackle, these rollers are pushed into those beveled edges, and that pushes the fork down into the code wheels. Once we bind the fork on the code wheels, we can actually decode this by feel simply by turning these wheels. Master Lock tried to mitigate that problem by adding a whole bunch of false gates. In fact, there is one on every single number here. But they made a large mistake in using false gates that are much narrower than the true gates. This allows us to very quickly differentiate between the false and true gates simply by feel. So let me demonstrate how we would decode this lock. First, I already know the combination, so we need to change this. Right now it's all ones, so let me move it to the change position. I'm pushing this downward so I can't see, and then I'm just going to scramble these wheels. Once they've been scrambled enough, I'm going to move it back to 1, lift it up, lock it up, and re-scramble it. So right now I have a lock with a combination that I don't know. The only thing you really have to do is pull down on here and feel how much each of these wheels turn. So let's get each of these in a gate. I'm pulling down. There's only a little bit of motion on each of these wheels. Once I determine that, I advance each one by 1 position. And once I find a true gate, I'll show you the difference between the two. I have not found a true gate yet. They're really pretty obvious. Okay, I found one on number 4. Watch, let me get closer to the camera and then watch how much that moves. That's quite a bit. Now compare it to the number 3 wheel that only moves just a little bit. Okay, let's advance the first 3 again. Okay, number 3, we found the true gate. Not on 2 or 1. There we go. We just got it open. 2792 is the correct combination. Let's do that one more time. That took probably as long as it has ever taken me to do that. Okay, let's get each one of these in a gate to start with, and then just start feeling. Okay, wheel number 2 is 4, and it looks like number 1 is correct too, so 8, 4. Let me advance just the last 2 wheels. Okay, looks like I found the correct for number 3. So, there we go, and we got it, 8422. So as you can see, this is a very easy lock to decode. Frankly, I think it's faster to decode without a tool than it is when you use a tool. So, this Master Lock Model 875 is a mixed bag when you compare it to the older Master Lock Model 175. On the positive side, the lock can no longer be bypassed and you no longer need a tool to change the combination. However, you also no longer need a tool to decode the lock, which means that opening this lock quickly is within the capability of anyone with a little bit of knowledge. That's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, Have a nice day. Thank you.